This is the World Satsanga on the 19th of January 2016. So Happy New Year to everybody. It's great to be able to talk to you in this 2016th year since the birth of Christ, and it's nice to be able to see such a reasonable group here as well. Thank you for all dialing in and using your time. Of course, it's fantastic. Just to go through the agenda, I'm going to go through a review of the who we are, how we incarnate, just to let us know or give us a high-level overview, just to remind ourselves what we are. Then we've got some questions from Ula and from Mirella and from Bill, so we can go through those. And I think that looking at this, certainly looking at Ula's, it's very much a case of it's geared around the subject matter of who we are and how we incarnate. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look and see if there's anything on the system that needs to be adjusted. No, we're fine. Okay, so again, Happy New Year to you all, and it's fantastic to see you all. And Celia's just about to join us as well, which is good. And we've put the cats away so we don't get any noises from cats from squeaking and squalling, because they're both in the house tonight and they don't totally get on. Okay, so who we are and how we incarnate. Well, really, we've talked about this before. I just want to go over it as an overview, just to refresh our memories. As such, we are smaller aspects of a bigger being, and that bigger being is our true energetic self. The Hindus call it the Godhead. Doris Callan called it the Oversoul, but we can call it the higher self. All those words mean exactly the same thing. That much larger part of us that exists mostly in the energetic. That part also is the part that was primarily created by our Creator, the Source, or what we call God. And its creation of us was there to allow it, through us, as smaller individualised units of it, to experience, learn and evolve about itself, and the structure it created as part of itself, within itself, is what we work with, and we investigate that and experience it in various different ways as a result of that. The part of the functionality of this is that we wish to incarnate, or should I say experience through incarnation, the lowest frequencies of this environment, this multiversal environment, which is part of the structure of the source. And to enable us to do this and to experience it in the most profound way possible, i.e. existing in the same frequencies and working with those frequencies, we've elected to incarnate or project an aspect of ourselves, what we call our soul, into this physical vehicle to allow us to move around. So you can think of it in terms of a motor car. The soul is the human body in the motor car driving it, or the aspect of the case may be, and the motor car is the human body from that perspective. Now, when we incarnate, the energy is projected through from the true energetic self down through a protective tunnel, very, very small tunnel, or should I say almost like a tube, called the Hara line, which goes in through the energies associated with the human form, close to but not through that area that is called the crown chakra. It then comes down into an area called the Tantien, which is 3 inches or 75 millimeters above the navel, and 3 inches or 75 millimeters inside towards the center of the body. From that point, the Tantien, the energies coalesce and then start to spread out through the energetic network into the various major, minor and mini chakras, and allows those energies to animate the human form. From there also, the sentience associated with those energies starts to move and coalesce in a centralized location that's called the soul seat, which sits behind the area where the front aspect of the heart chakra is located. And so from there we have the sentience driving the energetics, which drives the physical form. and of course we then therefore go throughout our incarnate existence in this particular way. When the vehicle gets old or demises, or it's time for us to leave, or time for the aspect or the soul to leave the body, the reversal of the projection is experienced. The sentience moves away from the soul seat and goes down towards the Tantien. The energies that were within the chakras, the major chakras, minor chakras, and mini chakras, and the other energy lines that we use to animate the human form start to move back towards the Tantien, and then the energy associated with the soul aspect moves through the Hara line back towards the true energetic self, or Godhead, or Oversoul, or higher self, through this protective tube or tunnel that is called the Hara line, back into the energies where the true energetic self is residing as a result of its own evolutionary level within the multiversal environment. This, interestingly enough, this Hara line is the way in which the communication between the true energetic self and the projected aspect of it in its sentience is protected from the almost complete separation of sentience from the true energetic self into the lower frequencies. So it still allows an amount of communication, but it is a very limited level of communication, because the step down of the frequencies from where the true energetic self is residing down into the frequencies associated with the physical universe are quite pronounced, and the level of communication is therefore reduced almost to zero. Others just asked a question: are the frequency bands 8, 9 and 10 energetic parts of us kept within the Hara line or outside of it? They are outside of it. They're part of the step down function. So frequency bands 10, 9 and 8 are part of that step down function. You can think of them as like an energetic tunnel, where all the bandwidth of the energies are put through this funnel, and then squeezed down into the smaller diameter to allow it to work with the lower frequencies of the physical universe. So they are part of the function of the step down function, where the sentience and the energy and its frequential bandwidth starts to move down into the energies associated with the human form. When we incarnate as an aspect, we are at least awarded the opportunity to have 2.5% of the total sentience of our true energetic self. There being a maximum of 30% of the sentience of the true energetic self projectable into those 12 aspects maximum that the true energetic self can project into any part of the physical or other part of the multiversal environment. When we as an aspect project a smaller aspect of ourselves, what's called a shard, we as well can only project 12 into the various multiversal environments or areas within the physical universe, and that also is awarded a minimum of 2.5% of the sentience of that 2.5%. So we can see that the shards are by default less sentient than the aspect itself. When we incarnate, there's various different forms of incarnation. We can share a body, we can split the soul into different bodies, we can allow souls to walk into a body and walk out the other side, or we can share a body with another aspect for a number of years and then change it with another aspect for a number of years. Or we can have 3 or 4 or 5 or sometimes even more souls or aspects occupying a single body, just to maximise the evolutionary opportunity, whilst not having the opportunity to use an individualised body or human vehicle for all of those different souls, because there isn't enough of these bodies, even in the whole physical universe. For every aspect to incarnate into. So we sometimes share these bodies, and as a result of that, there are usually one particular soul which has got the primary responsibility for animating the body, and the others are usually, shall we say, passive passengers, where they're in the body but not doing much to affect the direction, unless, of course, that there is a need for a particular specialism for a soul to be used, and that's where we start to get people who are world leaders, for instance, who are having to do a lot of different levels of responsibility and be active in a lot of different subject matters, needing to have various different souls attributed to a body so that they can access the different levels of specialism that those different souls have accrued, and function in the way that particular human body is expected to function in the environment it's being exposed to. So that's why certain individuals, such as world leaders, etc., or spiritual leaders, have more than one soul associated with them. It was just asked, did Jesus, Buddha, or other composite hybrid souls bring all 30% or less than that for the incarnation? In Jesus' case, let me just ask the question. I'm told Jesus was 12%, and that the true and identical self associated with the Jesus character was only projecting 2 into the physical environment at that time. One of those, I'm told, was John the Baptist. In terms of the Buddha was one of 3, and all 3 of them together worked with 18% of the sentience associated with their true energetic self, and it was a different TES to that which was projecting the Jesus character into the physical. Okay, I think Atso is about to ask a question, but I think we can ask that and move on. The thing is, the walk-ins. Walk-ins, as I say, they are situations where souls can come and go, and they can come for a period of minutes or hours or days or even years and years and years, and experience either in a passive sense or an active sense the control or the animation of the human form. And so, from that perspective, we sometimes and usually can see changes in personality or changes in behaviours and actions that are attributable to these souls if they do take over the control of the vehicle. Now, sometimes there are various different psychological complaints that we know of that can be attributed to the way in which we've incarnated, whether we're sharing a body, whether we've split our personality, our personal energies and sentience, our soul, for instance, or our aspect, into different bodies together. So we sometimes can experience different lives concurrently, or we have these abilities where we do change personality. And some of these things that are classified as psychological illnesses are attributed to the way we have incarnated or shared the human form, or are allowing other forms other souls to come in and experience the incarnation for momentary or very temporary time frames. Okay. So that's the question. When Tess is incarnated 3 times, i.e. in 3 aspects, at the same time on Earth, and one of them is a main bearer or evolution, or main bearer of evolution, what is the mission of the other 2? Is it just to cruise in the physical? It sounds strange. Okay. The certain aspects are recalled on a regular basis because of the level of specialism that particular part of the sentience of the TES has accrued. And so the TES sometimes elect to reuse that particular configuration, so to speak. And that's where a soul or aspect can maintain its own individuality within the overall sentient energy of the true energetic self. If three of those aspects are projected into an environment, the physical universe or another part of the multiverse, and one is the primary evolutionary bearer, i.e. it's the one who's accrued the most evolution, there is still a function that the others have. They still accrue evolution, but at a different rate. It's not how the individual aspect accrues evolution which is important, it's how the true energetic self accrues the evolution which is important. Because at the end of the day, the aspect is simply an aspect, a smaller part of the true energetic self. It's not important from the functionality of the true energetic self which of them creates the most evolutionary gain. It's just that overall, irrespective of one being a better performer than another, it is accruing evolution, and it's accruing it in a way which is accelerated in conjunction with the number of different aspects which it projects into either the physical environment or other environments. And so it doesn't really matter from that perspective. It's how much evolution the total number of aspects that are projected creates rather than the individual ones. Okay. Right, that's a good question, that is. Thanks for that, Atto. I'm just going to go into the question now. Firstly, the one from Ula. So if Ula wants to project that onto the IM, the instant messaging service of Skype, I'll read it out so that others who are listening into this recording later can understand what was being talked about. And okay, first question is, since we are evolving faster, what will humanity be like in 50 to 60 years? For instance, when all 12 white children are amongst us. In 50 or 60 years' time, my understanding is we will be much more aware and awake than we are now. That being, those who are aware and awake will become more aware and awake. Those who are on the cusp of becoming aware and awake, or interested in becoming more expansive or understanding more about their environment, will start to become more aware of their environment. And so we're going to be more expansive, more able to take more information in, more aware of our environment and ourselves. And those of us who are still here, and at that distance in time I don't think I'll be, for a start off, it'll be a case of they will be also starting to access different functionalities associated with higher frequency existence, even whilst incarnate. And so the human body will become a lighter vehicle for those individuals. And these 12 white children, of which 4 are going to be qualitative teachers, 4 are going to be quantitative teachers, and 4 are going to be behind the scenes, doing things behind, in terms of making improvements in our environment or our learning by, I'm not going to use the word stealth, but by affecting things where it affects a lot of people, but not specifically being aligned to a certain individual. Is going to be action. So they will be people who make changes that are unseen, that are going to be experienced by us. Okay. Again, these individuals will become more prominent. We'll start to see that the qualitative ones and the quantitative ones will become, in these time frames, you'll start to see publications from them of no doubt, broadcasting of knowledge from them, disciples or devotees of them will start to spring up around the world. There's going to be a number of individuals who will be recognised as being direct descendants of the teachings of first generation students and all those sort of things. That's what's going to happen in the next 50 to 60 years. We will be a higher frequency. We'll be able to be more in keeping with what we are. We'll have more use of intuition rather than logic, and we will be more caring and loving as a result of that. So the sub-question to that is, will most of humanity have moved out of the three frequential version of Earth by that time? That being the current Earth, not the new Earth that Dolores Cannon talks about, or others talk about. My understanding is at that time there will still be a lot of individuals who will be in this current three frequencies, and so it's for the people who are immersed in their incarnation. There won't be an awful lot of difference in terms of how they're experiencing their incarnation. For those who are existing in the fourth frequency, they will start to realise, of course, that they're on a different level. They will know that they are able to have higher functionality in terms of how they interface with the rest of the environment and others around them of the same frequential type. And they will also recognise that they are not specifically, shall I say, visible in the environment that they will also be working within for those who are immersed in that three frequential frequency band associated with the Earth. So that these individuals who are higher will know what's going on, and they'll be able to dip in and dip out of the lower upper frequency then. But those who are still in the lower frequencies won't notice much difference. The sort of supplementary question to that is, or does that happen much later, like hundreds of thousands of years later? Obviously, later, hundreds of years later, we start to get an increase in the percentage of individuals who are in the fourth frequency, and some will start to go to the fifth frequency. There will want to be a number of stragglers, so to speak, who will still be in the third frequency, but the number of individuals for them who are part of the world's population will stay where they are, because we've still got these backfill people who will be, shall I say, making sure that the overall population is maintained, and so there'll be no sort of concerns or fears about a rapidly dropping population, and with nobody knowing where these individuals who are part of the population are going to. Okay. Let's have a look at the next question. Next part of it. Backfield people are only allowed. Question: are backfield people only allowed to incarnate in the frequential version of Earth, and not the higher versions, like the fourth or the fifth frequency bands? Correct. Yeah, they're there to ensure that there is a balance maintained in the lower version of the Earth, the lower frequential version of the Earth, to allow these other individuals who are slower at evolving to evolve. And eventually, when there are no individuals existing on the third frequency of the Earth, then the requirement for the backfill people will disappear, and they will return to their own normal evolutionary and incarnate locations within the physical universe. Okay. So will their function keep the low frequencies here? When will their function to keep the low frequencies here become obsolete? Ooh. I'm asking the question. And I'm being told that it could be as long as 3,000 years. It just depends upon how fast those who are not evolving as fast as what others are take to catch up with us. It could be as long as 3,000 years. It could be as short as 1,200 years, I've just been told. So it depends. The thing to note is not to worry about others. It's to work on yourself and those who seek help from you, so that you can be service to them to help them move up. It's one of these things where if there's still one soul that is working on the third frequency level, then there will still be the need for that third frequency level to be populated by backfill people, and that's the sort of the metric I'm being told to use when advising of these number of years that it would take to potentially make everybody move up the frequencies. But don't forget, 1,200 years is not a long time. when you're talking about our own state of being, it's quite a short time when we are in the energetic. It can go very, very quickly. Okay. So the second question. I think Yoda's got another question here very quickly. What would 3D world be a mad world because they're all acting? Will that 3D world be a mad world because they're all lower performing individuals or lower acting individuals? Well, no. It will maintain a level of functionality, but also although these backfill people won't specifically move onwards to the fourth level yet, or certainly whilst on Earth they won't, there will be a level of residual evolution that they will gain as a result of working in this particular environment. So although they will still be three frequential incarnate beings, they will move up the sub-frequencies, so to speak. And so there will be progression for these individuals who are still working their way through the evolutionary level to become able to incarnate in fourth frequency bodies rather than three frequency bodies. So even the backfill people and the souls that are backfill will benefit from this function and the service that they're giving to the rest of those souls who incarnate as in the human vehicle. Okay. So next set of questions from is every case of bipolar disease associated with two souls sharing one body? And the sub questions are: does this happen from birth as a shared vehicle, or is it acquired later as a walk-in? Both, both or mixtures of. There are times when a body is assigned with 3, 4, 5, 6 souls, and there's a primary soul to control that or animate that vehicle. And a walking can happen after birth to just before death. It doesn't matter. It can be there for 2 minutes, it can be there for 2 hours, it can be there for 2 years or 2 decades. There's no real rules as to how a walk-in appears or disappears. It just depends upon what that particular soul and the soul who's animating the vehicle have got agreed before the incarnation was commenced. In terms of the shared vehicle from the souls sharing the body, again, a shared vehicle from the start. For instance, if there's, let's say, four souls that are constantly using a body from the start of the incarnation to the end of the incarnation, they would be from the birth basically and before. The walking can happen at any time. There's no specific time frame that can happen. It's just whenever there was an agreement and when the operative time frame is available, or the correct juncture in the incarnation is available for it to move in. And sometimes there are individuals who just are invited in anyway. And sometimes individuals come in as a result of some of the substances that we take, whether it's alcohol or drugs. If the natural protective function of the human aura and the chakras are compromised as a result of certain substances, then other individual souls can experience the sensations associated with that body and its level of, shall we say, drunkenness or intoxication can be experienced by those souls walking in. But they would very quickly walk out as soon as the natural protective function of the chakras of the aura starts to reform, because once the body moves back into harmony with what it's supposed to be, if the soul, the original soul, has moved itself out to move itself away from these disharmonious conditions of its vehicle, the walking can't stay there, because the primary animating soul has to move back in again, and unless there's a deal or an agreement between those two souls that the one can stay there, the walk-in that's taking the advantage of the door being open, so to speak, has to move away. So what is the preferred method to deal with bipolar disease? Prescriptions of medicines with suicide as a potential side effect, or healing by spiritual healer, such as, well, people like myself or others, where the souls are assigned their dominant and passive roles, or both if necessary. One of the things I've noticed is that the best way to deal with it is to place the patient in a position where the therapist can communicate with both of those souls, or 3 souls, or 4 souls, together, and gain an agreement that they will become passive. Those who are supposed to be passive will go to being passive, and those that aren't passive, that are supposed to be the animating soul, the primary soul, regain that status. So that can be done through, for instance, QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis system that Doris can created, as long as you can communicate with all the souls concurrently. Or a very good healer can communicate with the energies associated with the way in which the souls are positioned and interact with the body energetically, and can re-establish the demarcation lines between the passive function of the soul and the dominance and primary function of the soul, that is the soul that is supposed to be animating that particular body. So a good healer can communicate with those souls, or can reassign or repair, if you want to call it that, the walls that may have been broken down in between, for instance, the areas of the energies that are associated with passive interaction versus with in conjunction with those energies associated with animation or primary control. So it can be done. In fact, in reality, this sort of functionality, this sort of healing process is preferred to the medical function. What all the medical function does is give drugs, and the drugs create an energetic imbalance. And the energetic imbalance has the effect of driving the soul or souls, even the primary driving soul, away from the energies associated with the human form. And so all it's doing is reducing the interaction with the body through creating energetic disharmony. It's almost like you're drugging the body to the point where it's constantly intoxicated, and that level of intoxication is abhorrent to those souls that are in the body, and that includes the driving or the primary soul, not just those souls which are supposed to be passive, but maybe not be. Okay, well, hopefully that's answered those particular questions, and I've got one more question here from Ulla. Let's have a quick look. And she said, are the souls driven to be sort of out the body in some astral level? I'm being told they're moved into the 8th, 9th and 10th levels, where they're outside of the energetic ability to animate the body, but they're still within the energies associated with the body. Remember, the 8th, 9th and 10th energies are basically the step-down function from the, or part of the step-down function from the true energetic self to the human vehicle, to allow the soul to be projected into it, or the aspect to be projected into it. But those 3 levels don't have any auric layers associated with them, or any chakras associated with them. So they don't have the same level of connectivity as the 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st levels do. So they're still within the area, if you want to call it that, of the human form, not in the astral levels, which are associated with the 4th to 7th frequencies because they're external to the human vehicle, whilst the human vehicle still uses those energies to be created, of course. But they're still within this sphere of energy that's associated with the creation of this particular vehicle. And so they are still part of it. They're not driven totally out, they're just driven out of the way of control. It's a little bit like putting them in a different room from the room that's got all the controlling mechanism, if you want to call it that. Okay. Let's have a look at the next set of questions which came from Bill, if I can find his. Okay. And okay, Bill's got a question. Is the following statement correct? The origin created our source entity to have the same potential as the origin, except that our source entity cannot create the origin. And our source entity created us to have the same potential as our source entity, except we cannot create our source entity. Therefore, the only limitation we have then is self-imposed, and that eventually us caterpillars can become butterflies, meaning that we become aware of our divine heritage and act upon it. If so, is the incarnation into the physical necessary to achieve this awareness, or is it that we've got stuck identifying with the physical and have to keep incarnating to let go of the physical and free ourselves from this level of stiction? The answer is the source entities were created with let's say, an individualized function of the origin, but not as the origin. They cannot create the origin. Even the origin can't recreate the origin, and so it is created. They are created as much smaller versions of itself to allow them, on its behalf, this is to try the source entities on the origin's behalf, to investigate its own area or areas of polyomniscient sentient self-awareness, or should I say, those that are destined to become in that way, because there's vast areas that the origin knows about but doesn't know the detail about, and the source entities were created to investigate those details. The source entities did their own different things, but our particular source entity created us to do a similar thing. It's assigned half of its own sentient energies and structure of those energies to be used as an environment, a basic environment, and then created myriad or countless numbers of smaller versions of itself, those smaller versions being our true energetic selves, God, head or oversoul, to investigate that environment. The movement through the environment being a function of evolution. Although the environment is linear in its presentation to us right now, how we experience it doesn't need to be linear. It doesn't need to be progressive. It can be random. As long as we fill in all the boxes, or should I say, tick all the boxes, we can experience the multiverse in different ways, and we can go up and down and sideways and all those sorts of different things. And so we are there to go through an evolutionary cycle, or if we're with entities that are maintaining that structure and helping it to be continue to be in existence. We assist in the evolutionary cycle. We therefore go through this evolutionary cycle, allowing our source entity to experience itself and evolve through us experiencing the minor detail of itself. And in doing that, the source entity therefore is, on behalf of the origin, experiencing that smaller detail of that which is ultimately the origin, even though it's classified as being the source entity or part of the source entity, and that part being the multiverse. So the physical incarnation is necessary because it's the lowest frequencies. So to experience the lowest frequencies in the way they're supposed to be experienced, i.e. feeling resistance when we are in contact with low frequency objects such as tables and chairs and walls and even our own bodies, we have to incarnate, we have to move into a body, a vehicle that is operating on that level. And so we, as incarnate beings, experience the reduction in functionality associated with low frequency existence and low frequency interaction, and we also experience the limitations in communication, movement and interaction as well as a result of that. and so it's part of our. This is part of our experience here. When we can experience or move into this low frequency environment and not be addicted by some of the sensations, the status that comes with it, material desires, wants, needs, then we can move away from and elect to stop our own incarnation process, because we've moved away from the need to shall I say, move back into this environment to see if we can remove an attraction to a certain experience or a certain sensation within this particular environment. And that also includes ways that we might act with an other incarnate soul. Okay, so it's all to do with moving into the lower frequencies, because it's actually a faster way of removing the links with the lower frequency function of the multiverse, the physical universe, is actually by going into it. So that's the fastest way of removing that link. Although we can, and that link is called karma. Attraction to any environment is karma, basically. We can move ourselves to a higher frequency, and that's called positive karma. The thing to do is to be able to move into this environment and not be attracted to it in any way, shape or form, or addicted to it in any way, shape or form. And when we can be in the physical but not of the physical, then we actually don't need to incarnate. And therefore we can move within other higher frequencies within the multiverse and continue to evolve without being associated with lower frequencies as well. So that hopefully answers Bill's question. And finally, I've got one for Mirella as well. Look at Mirella's. And slightly different angle this time, but Mirella asks, I'm not sure. I'm going to see if I can add this to the instant messaging of, where are we? Of the system, so you can see it all. Oops. Right, let's put that there. Paste. Okay. It says in many Indian cultures, Inca, Aztec, Maya, there are orally transmitted stories about divine masters and teachers who come across the sea, spend some time with them, and then left, promising to come back one day. The similarity of this master in all the cultures leads to many to believe that this is the same person, the same energetic signature. He had different names in different cultures, but he's also been connected with, in brackets, what they call the feathered serpent. The work and teaching is the same, and they all describe him as being a white, bearded person. In brackets, this was before contact with the white race. Okay, he had long hair and dressed in long flowing robes. And the comment is, I'm curious if you can say something about this. Yeah. Now then, my understanding is that this particular individual and others who were very similar, looked visibly similar but were different, were all doing the same thing, and they were basically those individuals of high status and functionality that had survived the demise of the Atlantean race and were working in almost still full functionality to try to kickstart a new human civilization, so that we've got a head start in terms of starting to experience, learn and evolve whilst incarnate. And so they started to introduce new cultures in an almost instantaneous way. So things like the Egyptian culture suddenly appears from nowhere. There's nothing in archaeology, as far as I'm aware, and I'm not an archaeologist, but I've not seen anything anywhere. So if anybody finds out, can they please advise me otherwise? That there was a gradual increase in civilization to create the Egyptian race. It seemed to come from nowhere, like almost created overnight. And that's the information I've got. So the culture was created overnight, people incarnated in those bodies, but the ability to do certain things like build buildings, shift large chunks of material, to create crops, etc., and other sort of normal sort of functionality of a civilized, of a advanced civilization, were taught to these people. And the idea was that they'd come back. But they didn't come back, at least not in the form that they were initially observed within, because in general, what the work that they'd done was successful. So if, for instance, your objective is to start a fire, and you work on igniting the tinder, and the tinder ignites the wood, and it also starts to dry out the wood that is wet, and then the whole fire starts to work properly, then you don't need to go back and start to ignite tinder again, because the fire's going. And so basically, they didn't need to come back because their job was done, and it was done correct in the first place. And they had a bit of a level of responsibility, because I believe that they started to realise that they had the responsibility for the demise of the Atlantean race, and they wanted to, if you like, make amends for what they'd done. Okay. There's got a question aside of this saying, do they belong to an Atlantean race called Kalu, who taught the Druids and their scenes many things? I'm being told that there was a number of different levels of status within the Atlantean race, and there was the level that these individuals came from were the highest status, not specifically in terms of, shall I say, power over others, but in terms of their ability to manipulate and create, and so that they were that. In terms of whether it was called the Kalu, I'm being told that the name of what they were was lost, and there was various different interpretations, and so the Kalu, although it can be used as a name, isn't specifically accurate in terms of what they were called at that level. It's a bit like calling something level 1, and then somebody else calls it status 1, or the Premier function, or the Premier League. You know, all these different things. People change the nomenclature over time, and it also changes with language as well. I'm going to answer Joe's question last, because I want to go into the last of these bits that Mirella had asked. Because you've got a second question here. Okay. Let's go back into my Skype. Paste. Okay. Right, so Mirella asked the second question based upon the first one, saying she's also curious as to why America's indigenous population did not suffer from any diseases or epidemics that were so rampant in Europe. For instance, chickenpox, plague, syphilis, influenza, etc. That was because they were on a higher frequency. The American Indians, American Native Indians, and the Aborigines in Australia and other areas of the world, such as the Maoris and New Zealand, etc., etc., were all fairly pure and, for the most part, untouched by the addictions and attractions to being incarnate. They understood who and what they were, and worked with the energies associated with natural environments. And so as such, they were higher frequency, much too higher frequency to have their physical forms affected by diseases that were available through energetic disharmony. And so they never caught those sorts of things. It was only when they were introduced to lower frequency existences and, shall we say, foods or practices or drinks, that they started to come down the frequencies, and then their physical forms started to be affected by the energies associated with some of these diseases, such as chickenpox, plague, syphilis, influenza, pneumonia, TB, and leprosy, those sorts of things. So that came later when they were pulled down the frequencies by other people who were lower frequency, were starting to explore and repopulate the Earth. Okay. Right, Joe's got an excellent question here. Can I explain the difference between being self-aware and sentient? Somebody else has asked this a number of times actually, and it's a really good question. Okay. Self-aware is almost like being an animal, like a cat or a bird, who is able to see a reflection in a mirror and recognise it as being itself. That's being self-aware. Although you might think the Hindus would say self-aware is being able to know who or what you are from a higher perspective, such as being in contact with your true energetic self, the environment associated with your true energetic self, and of course your creator, your source, your God. It is that is the correct definition of what being self-aware is, and the use of the description of the mirror is a lower method of understanding that. So it's really being able to see who and what you are. Okay. In terms of being sentient, sentience is the ability to create, to experiment with creation, and to have a plan around creation, and to be able to recreate objects, environments, and states of beingness. It is being self-aware isn't in itself a means to evolution. Self-awareness is a progressive state along the road to sentience. Sentience is a position where we're not constrained by anything. We're not constrained by the energies that our sentience, our true beingness, is sort of like contained within. And that sentience, that pure sentience, that pure beingness can move from the original group of energies that was assigned to that sentience by our creator into different other energies. They can either commandeer other energies and move into those, or it can stay with the energies that was given to it by source. So the sentience bit is what we are in total. Although being self-aware is a function of the progressive state that an energy goes through on its way to sentience. So sentience is the function of creativity and the planning of creative function, the analysis of creative function, the correction of creative function or improvement of creative function, and the recreation of that creative function in a better way. That's the difference. Being self-aware is simply a state of understanding who and what we are. And so are animals, so I was asking this question, are animals self-aware? And the answer is yes, to a lesser degree than ourselves. They're a different TES than what we are. And they can become sentient because they work with us. Now, we are a different energy, a different quality of energy, different level of sort of sentience, so to speak. And so they can, through interaction with ourselves, start to progress from an evolution perspective. And when they get to a certain level, they can jump the energetic genre barrier that designates them as being one type of quality of energy, and then go for another one, which is classified as being sentient energy. Dolphins and whales. Well, dolphins definitely are a sentient being. Whales, I'm being told, aren't. Dolphins are a different TES, but they are sentient without doubt. In fact, they're probably more sentient than mankind is, to be honest, and so they have a different way of working with things. Where are dolphins TES in the multiverse? I'm just asking the question, actually. Okay, I'm being told the fifth full dimension. So that's at least in the fifth full dimension. So whereas we, as the incarnate human beings, will bump into people who are fifth, sixth, on the other occasion seventh or even eighth. Sometimes I've even met one person at ninth, quite by accident, but they're only here for a short period of time. Most of humanity is in the third, fourth, and mostly in the third and fourth, with those who are becoming more aware and awake, whilst incarnate. Sentience isn't something that's associated with being incarnate. Sentience is what we are in our true energetic state. They are, within those full dimensional ranges. So the dolphins come from at least a level of the fifth full dimension, and they're here to observe and keep things and work out what's going on. In fact, I'm being told they have a lot of work to do with elementals, what we call nature spirits at times, to ensure that the evolutionary functionality and the efficiency of the Earth is maintained, and that we don't mess things up, to be honest. Whales' testes are the same as animals. They're around the third. Sort of second or third full dimension. It's interesting that we associate whales and dolphins together, but they're a completely different energetic race. Okay, we'll do one more question. I think Atso's having a quick question here before we... orcas are whales. They're the same. Although we do train them, so to speak, and we show them off in sea life centres and those sorts of things. Orcas are dolphins. They look like dolphins from the perspective of the physical form, but they are not the same energy, not the same soul, so to speak. They're a different thing. So although they are trained, and they are, and you could argue that that killer whales, for instance, are not whales. They are the dolphin family. They are a different energy, which is an interesting thing, isn't it? Where you have something which is similar but different energetically. While you're thinking about that, think about the physical form of a human being can be occupied by the energy associated with what we call a human form, a human being, and also a backfill. So it's a different soul energy, different quality of energy occupies a body which is similar, and that's the same thing with us and the backfill people. Same thing with the energies associated with the killer whales or the orcas. They're not or the vehicle, the body is similar. It doesn't house the same energy. Okay. I hope that answers that question. It's a very good question. It's one where you know, if I hadn't asked the question as you typed it in, I would have thought that they would be exactly the same. I would have thought, well, an orca's a dolphin, from the dolphin family, but it's not the same energy associated with them. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I did advertise actually doing a meditation for world peace, but I get the feeling to push that out until February. Okay. By the way, most of the individuals who fed back to me suggested that the Saturday was more beneficial to them than the Tuesday. So I think we're going to move back to the Saturday for the next Satsanga. So if those of you who were sticking to who thought the Tuesday was good, it seems like that most of us want to go back to Saturdays because of the people are working and those sorts of things. So Saturday seems to be better still. Right. So the meditation was going to be to assist in world peace. Celia actually said that it should be closer to the date for the World Peace Day, didn't you? Yeah. So that's we're going to investigate when that is and try to align the energies associated with our meditation with World Peace Day to make it more effective, so to speak, in that respect, because other people around the world will be thinking in the same lines as well. So on that note, what we're going to do is a meditation that I held with the Slovenian group and the Far Eastern group, which is a method of maintaining contact within the group, synergetic contact within the group and with Source. And it's based upon the traversing of frequencies work, so we'll be moving in a similar way to a very sort of shall I say, round numbered level within the multiverse environment, and then working with Source to create the link between us and link with Source. So we've got this constant connectivity between ourselves as dedicated truth seekers. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is to sit straight in your chair. Okay, feet on the ground, back straight, palms uppermost on your upper thighs, and eyes closed, with your closed eye vision focused on the origin of the third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Okay. And I want you to visualize, or if you can't visualize or have trouble with visualizing, you can use the mentally spoken word, and you can basically repeat what I say, and that will achieve the same thing. But in front of you is an area, an open area, and a lift door directly in front of you. And this lift door you wish to open, so you press the lift call button on the right hand side of the lift door, and the lift door opens. And in there you find myself and other members of the group which are present. So right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 plus me and Celia 10. So it's Joe, Adriana, Ula, Mirella, Atso, John, Terry and Biliana. And we're going to move into this lift all together, turn around, let the lift door close, and I'll press the button with the number 200 on it, 200. And we're going to move up to this very round numbered area of the multiverse, which is the 189th simultaneous universe, but from a frequential state it's 200. So our lift moves up from 0 to 1 and 2, and moves on to 4 and 6 and 8 and 10, and then accelerates to 20 and 30 and 40, and accelerates again to 60 and 80 and 100 and 120, 140, 160, slows down at 180, slows down again at 190, slows down again at 192, 194, 196, 198, slows down again at 199, and finally comes to a standstill at 200. Okay, so we let the lift doors open. I want us to move no more than, let's say, 100 meters away from the lift. Okay, so move through the lift and go to an area about 100 meters away. We can move through, flying or floating or drifting or running or walking. And we all go to a central point together. And from there we create a circle. And so I've got on my left hand side Celia, on Celia's left hand side we've got Joe, On Joe's left-hand side we've got Adriana. On Adriana's left-hand side we've got Ula. On Ula's left-hand side we've got Mirella. On Mirella's left-hand side we've got Biliana. On Biliana's left-hand side we've got Terry. On Terry's left-hand side we've got John. On John's left-hand side we've got Atso. And Atso's left-hand side we've got my right-hand side to create the circle. All together. And we are no more than an arm's length apart from each other. While we're here, we ask the Source to create a connection with us, an energy that's associated with connectivity that we can all use to maintain connection with members of the group, those who are participating now, and those who participate through listening to this recording. And also we maintain a connection with each other on a daily basis if we wish. If we want to elevate our energies, we just think about being in this circle. And the energies associated with us being together in one energetic state creates a synergetic effect where we are the multiplication or the square of the sum of the participants. So for us it is 10 times 10. And that will help us to overcome periods of low frequency existence that we may experience. And so we ask Source to provide a vehicle for our connectivity, which is always there, of course. It's just that we forget how to use our natural connectivity, so we create a function, a bridge, that we can all use. So in the centre of our little group, of our circle of like-minded individuals, starts to appear or manifest a sphere of source entity energy. This sphere is a ball of white, golden, silvery light, which, as we've experienced in other communications with Source, sort of rotates and pulsates and irradiates. Source, entity, energy and sentience. So what we can do now is we put both of our hands forwards, or one hand forwards, the dominant hand if you wish. If you're right-handed, that's the right hand. If you're left-handed, it's the left hand. We put those hands out and we touch this ball of energy. We put our hands on this ball of energy. And in doing so, we create this connection between us and the ball of energy and everybody else in the group. Again, either currently present or present later in a different event, in this event space, but in a different connecting event space that they're creating through their desire to be part of this group, through the recording. And in touching this sphere, we can now bring the energy back towards us and connect it to our heart chakra. So imagine that you're withdrawing your hand or hands and putting your hand over the top of your chest where your heart chakra is. And that creates the connection between your heart chakra and this ball of source entity, sentient energy, and those others who have also participated. So now we are connected not only to source from an energetic perspective, but we're also connected to source with sentience as well. And our sentience is a smaller, much smaller function of its sentience. So we are creative beings, and that's a demarcation of sentience, being able to create. So we'll just stay here with this connection to this ball, this sphere of energy being maintained, knowing that all of the participants in this satsanga are also connected as well, and all those other participants who participate as a result of tuning into the recording later are also part of it. Just sit in this energy of connectivity, sentience, synergetic effect of being all together at once. Just bask in this connectivity. Sunbathe, if you want to call it that, or source bathe in this connectivity. We'll stay here for just a couple more minutes. If you wish, while you're here, you can see if you can communicate with others empathically, intuitively, telepathically. You can communicate with Source, again by any of those modalities I've just explained. So it's time for us to move back towards our various different locations, and so we indicate to Source that we have now got this connection made between ourselves, or should we say, we don't make a connection, we just re-establish our understanding of it as a result of what we've just done today. But in identifying that we've re-established or re-understood our connectivity with Source and with Source's creations, such as ourselves and our true energetic selves, the Source itself removes or starts to dematerialize this sphere of energy, this localization of its sentience and the energies associated with that sentience. And so they start to move away so that the sphere no longer exists. And so we, now, either remembering, recognizing, or creating our connection between ourselves and Source, start to move back towards the lift, either our floating or flying or drifting or running or walking, back to the lift. So when we get back to the lift, this short distance of around 100 metres, about 300 feet or 330 feet-ish, the door closes, and I push the button with the number 0 on it, and the lift starts to descend from 200, and we move down the frequencies from 200 to 199. 198, and then accelerates to 196, 194, 192, 190, and then accelerates to 180, 170, and 160, and then accelerates again to 140, and 120, and 100, and then accelerates again 80, keeping the same speed at 60 and 40 and 20, and slows right down at 10, slows down again at 8 and 6 and 4, slowing down again at 2 and 1, and finally coming to a standstill at 0 on the Earth level. We'll just stabilise here a moment. Ourselves become aware of our physicality and the surroundings that our physicality finds itself. And so the door opens and we walk out, and in walking out we find ourselves energetically back in the rooms that we're in, or vehicles that we're in, or locations that we're in. We slowly open our eyes, and if you've got a chance, take a drink of water or some other liquid that is suitable. That'll help to ground you. And that brings us to the end of this particular satsanga. And thank you very, very much for dialing in. I know it's been difficult for some people because of work commitments. And we'll get together again on the 20th of February at the same time as normal. And thank you again. Happy New Year to you all. And just check that you're all okay.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Just check that you're okay. So, Celia's okay. Joe, you okay?
Good. Yes, thanks.
Good. Thank you. Adriana. Good. I think Atso looks like he's okay. He's typing. Yeah. Billian's okay. Terry's okay. Good. Adriana's okay. Marilla's okay. Good, good, good. John's just okay, as mentioned. So everybody's fine. Looking good. Okay, good. So I'm okay as well. And thank you all for joining in, and look forward to working with you in February. And namaste to you all, and God's love to you all. Thank you very much. Goodbye, good night, and good morning to everybody. Thank you.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?